Pre-Prep and welcome to another story. This afternoon we're going to read Alfie Gets In First. One day, Alfie and Mum and Annie Rose were coming home from the shops. Alfie ran on ahead because he wanted to get home first. He ran all the way from the corner shop to the front gate and up the steps to the front door. And then he sat down on the top step and he waited for the others. Along came Mum, pushing Annie Rose and the shopping. "I raced you," called Alfie. "I'm back first, so there." Annie Rose didn't care. She was tired, so she sat in her pushchair and sucked her thumb. Mum put the brake on the pushchair and left Annie Rose at the bottom step, while she lifted the basket of shopping up to the top. Then she found the key and opened the front door. Alfie dashed in ahead of her. I won, he shouted. Mum put the shopping down in the hall and went back down the steps to lift Annie Rose out of her pushchair. What do you think Alfie did next? Can't bear to look. He gave the door a great big slam. Bang! Just like that. Mum was on the outside holding Annie Rose and Alfie was on the inside with the shopping. Mum's key was on the inside too. "Open the door, Alfie," said Mum. But Alfie didn't know how to open the door from the inside. The catch was way too high. Mum looked into the letterbox. "Try to reach the catch and turn it," she said to Alfie, but Alfie couldn't quite reach it. "Can you put the key through the letterbox?" said Mum. But Alfie couldn't reach the letterbox either. Annie Rose was hungry as well as tired. She began to cry, and Alfie began to cry too. He didn't like being all by himself on the wrong side of the door. Just then, Mrs. McNally came hurrying across the street to see what all the noise was about. She and Mum took it in turns to say encouraging things into the letterbox, but Alfie still couldn't get the door open. Oh, look how sad Alfie is. "Go and fetch your little chair from the sitting room and you'll be able to reach the catch," said Mum. But Alfie didn't go to fetch his little chair. He just went on crying louder and louder, and Annie Rose went on crying louder and louder too. "There's my Maureen," said Mrs. McNally. "I'm sure she'll be able to help." Mrs. McNally's Maureen was a big girl. Right away she came and joined Mum and Annie Rose and Mrs. McNally on the top step. She said, "Might have to break a window, but I'll try to climb up the drain pipe first if you like." Mrs. McNally did not like the idea of that at all. No, Maureen, you mustn't hurt yourself," she said. Just then, Alfie's very good friend, the milkman, came up the street in his milk float. When he saw Mum and Annie Rose and Mrs. McNally and Mrs. McNally's Maureen all standing on the top step, he stopped his float and said, "What's the trouble?" Well, so they told him. "Don't worry, mate," the milkman shouted. "We'll soon have you out of there." Looks as though this lock is going to be tricky to break," the milkman said. But then Mrs. McNally's Maureen had a really good idea. She ran to ask the window cleaner, but there he is on his ladder, if he could bring his ladder and climb up to the bathroom window. And of course, when the window cleaner heard all about Alfie, he came hurrying along with his ladder as quickly as he could. But can you see what Alfie's doing? I think he's been quite a clever boy. Then Mum and Annie Rose and Mrs. McNally and Mrs. McNally's Maureen and the milkman all stood on the top step and watched while the window cleaner put his ladder up against the house. He started to climb up to the bathroom window, but when he was halfway up the ladder, what do you think happened? The front door suddenly opened and there was Alfie. He had managed to reach the catch and turn it. Just like that. How pleased does he look? He was very pleased with himself. He opened the front door as wide as it would go and stood back grandly to let everybody in. Then the window cleaner came down from his ladder, and he and the milkman and Mrs. McNally's Maureen and Mrs. McNally and Annie Rose and Mum and Alfie all went into the kitchen to have tea together. And there they are, waving goodbye to all their kind, helpful friends. Oh, what a relief Alfie managed to get the door open in the end. What a clever little boy. He was quite upset at the beginning, but then he remembered that he had been told by his mummy to go and fetch his little chair, and he did just that. He listened to his mum and did what she suggested, and he proudly opened the door all by himself. So well done, Alfie. And I will look forward to reading you another story tomorrow. Bye-bye.